Welcome back, I'm Dr. Lisa, and today we're going to go through exercises so you can strengthen the entire gluteus medius. Now the gluteus medius is a very important muscle, but it's often not strengthened the right way, especially if you're a runner. If you're a runner and maybe you've gone to rehab at a physical therapy clinic, you've done clamshells, maybe you've done side steps, or even like monster walks, and those are great to do. But we have to consider what the gluteus medius does during the running gait. What is actually happening? What is its role? The biggest role that it has when we're running is when we're in single leg stance. That means you're putting all your weight on your left side, the other leg is either swinging through or swinging behind. Now this is really important because if the gluteus medius is weak, what we're going to see is hip drop. So if my left gluteus medius is weak, my right hip and pelvis are going to drop. Now, when that happens, the knee can start to cave in, the tibia can start to rotate, the femur is going to internally rotate and adduct as well, and the foot can overpronate. So this is really important muscle because we don't want all those things to happen down the kinetic chain just from one muscle being weak. So grab your band, we're going to get started. I'm going to show you how you can strengthen all aspects of the gluteus medius because it does more than just hip abduction, does more than hip external rotation, and I already told you how it does single leg stability, so let's get started. The first exercise you're going to do to strengthen the anterior fibers of the gluteus medius to work on hip internal rotation is called a reverse clamshell. Now I want you to grab a foam roller or a small pillow. You're going to lay on your side, and I'm going to place this in between my knees like so. So my knees are in line with my hips. I'm in this 90-90 position. From here, all I'm going to do is lift my foot up, keeping my knee down like so. I want to make sure I'm not rotating my foot. It stays facing straight ahead. So if you do this enough, you'll start to feel it working even in the anterior part of your hip, because this also does work your TFL, your hip flexor, but your TFL connects into that gluteus medius and your IT band, which is why you can work more than one muscle at the same time. If you want to progress this exercise, you can just put a resistance loop around your ankles, adding in some resistance to make it a little bit harder. The next exercise to strengthen that gluteus medius, you're going to need a resistance loop. I'm going to put it around the tops of my knees here, so it's not on the kneecap, it's right above. And I'm going to come about 1.5 feet from the wall. One leg is going to be on the ground, the other leg, my toes, ball foot are on the wall. Hands on your hips. This is to work, it's actually a kind of a double whammy. We're going to be working hip external rotation because this is called a standing clamshell. So all you're doing is pivoting off that foot that's against the wall, going into hip external rotation. So on the left side, it is working my hip external rotators, like my gluteus medius, but on the right side, it is working that single leg stability. So if you do it on both sides, you'll get the benefit for both parts of the gluteus medius. You want to make sure with this one, you stand up nice and tall, you're not leaning forward too much, pushing that big toe into the ground on your stance leg. And I like to make sure that the band is not too heavy of resistance so you can get through and strengthen the full range of motion. To work more on single leg stance, we're going into an exercise called toe taps. Now I have the band around my ankles here. All I'm going to do is stand on my right leg with my knee slightly bent. From the side view, I want to make sure my glutes are loaded and my quad is loaded, so make sure you're not just bending that knee forward, you have a slight hinge back. In this position, big toe is pushing into the ground. Make sure your pelvis isn't rotated forward or in a transverse rotational way. You want to make sure your hips are facing straight ahead, and all I'm going to do is tap that toe out to the side. Now again, this one is really good because we're working that hip adduction, bringing that leg out to the side, hip abduction, and we're also working on single leg stability. So if you do this on both sides, you'll get the benefit for a lot of the gluteus medius muscle, a lot of the hip stability muscles as well. Now the gluteus medius is a really important muscle, but it also plays a big role with the gluteus minimus and the gluteus maximus. So let's go through an exercise that covers all three really great exercise for runners, and that is a split squat. So what you're gonna do, one leg's in front, one leg's behind. All I'm doing from here, my hips are facing straight ahead. I'm gonna squat down and up. You can also switch it up. There's benefits to holding the weight in both hands, and you can also put it in just one hand to mix it up. See what's most challenging for you. And this is really good for working that gluteus maximus into hip extension, gluteus minimus, and gluteus medius for single leg stability.